Want to propagate trees? Use the open cup method.
Yeah, if you walk through my garden, you'll see all these little containers that are wrapped in the trees for propagation purposes. So I want to give you guys a little bit of an intro how I do it. I do it the simplest possible way, very successful. I even have the advantage of every time it rains or every time we water our garden, the propagation areas, they get moist again. They're really easy to water. So it's easier this way, that way I'm doing it, for you to keep your propagation zones wet and working well. And it's very logical. We're actually using the trunk of the tree to carry the water down into the container that is creating this root system. What I usually do is I start off with a little bit of soil, and I'll add canela powder, cinnamon powder. And what we do with this is we basically are adding fertilizer, we're adding sterilization, we're adding a rooting hormone. This is the magical ingredient to making these types of setups, where you're trying to get a tree like this to have offshoots that you can cut off the mother plant and have your own plants that are going to grow separately. So what I do is I put maybe 4 tablespoons in here. This is incredibly cheap in Ecuador, so there's no problem with that. It smells delicious. So basically all I do is I close the lid, and I'll work that into the soil that I'm going to use as my growing medium. This is regular soil out of our trench composting, nothing special, nothing bought. And we basically work it in, get rid of all the lumps. I'm not happy with that. It doesn't look like there's enough canela in there, cinnamon. I'm going to put a bit more. I'm going to mix it again. See here. Okay, so now I've got a growing medium that is a little bit protected against disease and fungus and all those things. I'm getting all the twigs out. So for me, it's interesting is the moment I can smell the cinnamon in it, that means I have the right mix. And the mix is very fine. All the rocks are out. Everything's set up to grow immediately. It's a very fluffy soil and very easy to use. The next step is we analyze the plant we want to propagate. So this tree is very unusual because in Ecuador we have certain trees, even though we have 365 days of growing, we have certain trees that will drop all their leaves. And I pay attention to that. I wait for these leaves to drop because I know that the plant is going through a new cycle of life, and it's very, very possible for it to grow roots out of a side shoot like this. So what I do is I get these plastic containers. I'll break a hole in it, not really cut a hole, because I want these folds to hold the tree in place. That's my objective, is so that the tree goes inside here, holds itself in place. So I've got a bit of buds growing now, so I got to be a bit cautious not to damage them. So I'm going to slide my way down, not trying to damage anything. And what I'm trying to do is find a node where there's activity already happening, because I can get these guys to turn into roots just by covering them with soil. So what I do is, where I'm going to place it, I'm just going to score it up a bit. Not a lot, just a little bit, and not all the way around. I'm not damaging the Cambrian layer all the way around. I'm just making these little indentations. Then I take a little bit of cinnamon again and put it on those wet surfaces so they don't attract any disease. So I rub that in. Then I'm going to lower this into that spot. And these plastic nibs that I left will hold it in place. So I'm getting 3 pieces of these nodes coming out inside this. So if one of them takes, I can cut the mother plant here and I'll end up having this offshoot that is true to the mother. If it's a fruit tree or whatever, it's a lot better to do these types of cuttings so that you actually will have the mother plant instead of doing it from seeds. It's true to the mother plant. Okay, so we're going to start filling this up. It's tilting, so I want to get soil on this side. So I just do that. And I can smell the cinnamon in there, so it's very, very rich. Okay, so I'll fill this all the way up. Okay, now, when we irrigate, I'm going to press this into shape a little bit so it stays better. So most videos will show you closing this off completely, and it's really hard to get water inside there, but it is going to contain the first set of water you put in. So here's my setup. When it rains, this gets wet. When I water it, I have access to this. So in the first couple of weeks, I'll pay real attention to watering this every day. The success rate is in the 90s, high 90s, that this will root because I have all these nodes coming out that are going to actually turn into roots. And first thing I do is I water this. If you notice, the container is in the same angle as the this rootstock, the tree. So I'm going to water it. Completing turning into sludge. Okay. So that's how I set up these propagation areas where I can actually make the cut afterwards. And there's lots of life still on here, so this will send out new life again. So pick the right time of the year to do this. I like to do this when there's no leaves on here because I'm not going to damage any of these buds coming out, and that makes it so much easier for me to get this container on and actually see where the energy is. And when I see the new energy, I know that's going to turn into roots very easily. Yeah, I like to have, this is a very thick rootstock. I like to have these containers at least 3 times on both sides bigger, so that there's a lot of room for new roots to actually grow. So I've given it a lot of material for this big stem to turn into roots. Very important to have a decent size and not a very small size because it's going to be harder for the roots to establish themselves. In 6 weeks, I want to be able to cut this, and I want to have this thing completely filled with roots. And that'll make a huge difference for me because then I can actually be sure that it's going to survive when I transplant it. So this tulipifera, I've made these about 2 weeks ago, and I'm quite sure if I peeled this off, I would get a little bit of a root activity showing. I'm going to leave it still. If you see closely, I have all this new growth coming out of this. It dropped all its leaves as well. So that's why I did it 2 weeks ago, because I could easily get these containers in here. These are very small branches, so I don't need a huge cup. I just need a cup that fits that sort of formula of 3 times bigger. And I just come back and we just water it every second day. And we keep it moist. That helps a lot in keeping these trees growing, the rootstock growing.